Right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is DeWan Claiborne. I have the opportunity to be your president and CEO with your Central Maryland Chamber of Commerce, and I'm ecstatic to bring to you our June Small Business Seminar on Your Authentic Voice with Patrick Lee. And let me tell you a little bit about Patrick. Patrick is the president of Chesapeake Think Tank, where he works with small business owners to achieve their loftiest dreams. Patrick has over 20 years of experience owning and operating small businesses. He has been involved in every aspect from the startup phase to successfully selling a business and everything in between. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Lee.
Thank you. All right. First thing I got to say is the 20 years does not include all the COVID to now time. So I think I need to update the bio. It's like we all forgot. Yeah, exactly. We all forgot that COVID thing. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. Real quick, everybody, you see on the screen that you see the Spark Business Institute up there. So I am here as the Chesapeake Think Tank, but I also run a second company called Spark Business Institute. This is a presentation that comes from Spark. So Spark is basically a sister company. We do diagnostics and things for businesses there versus working with the businesses hands-on, which is what Chesapeake Think Tank is. Just so there's no confusion on that. All right, so what we're here to do today is we're here to talk about authentic brand voice. And let me start out not on authentic brand voice, but on small business, okay, as an entity. So one of the things that I've been on sort of a tour lately on speaking on the advantages that small business actually have in comparison to the big boys, right? So the idea that we all know the disadvantages that small businesses, local Main Street economies face when they're trying to face corporate entities and, all of that. And we're super familiar with it, but my thing has been to emphasize what are the things that local sustainable economies, small businesses have that are actually advantages. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the three that we've been talking about over the last few months, and then transition to this one because authentic brand voice is a tool that small business can use. It's not one that actually distinguishes it necessarily from large business because large business use this a lot, but small business have advantages in how they use this that actually not only authenticate us as businesses, but also in how we get known. So part of, anybody here who, let's say you're a realtor, you're a financial planner, there are so many of those folks out there. And you're like, okay, how does anybody know that I'm actually different or that I'm bringing something to the table? Because we're all using the same language. We all have the same titles, so what do we do that will put that out there so that we don't have to find our clients consistently simply by, I need to meet them, and then I need to look them in the eye and convince them that somehow I'm worthy of them taking a chance on me, right? So that's what we're going to get into here. But let's jump back and let's talk about the advantages that small businesses actually do have. One of the first ones is relational customer service versus transactional customer service. And this is something that every small business should absolutely lean into, because when you go to Verizon, right, and you start out, you're okay, here I got a problem, let's get in the system. Verizon's goal is very simple. They want to get you out of their system as fast as they can. They want you to get an answer. Don't think they don't. But if you don't fit into their exact parameters to get that answer and get out, then they've lost interest in you. Now you're one of these cost things over here. You churn. It takes you forever to get anything done. Relational is you walk in someplace and people acknowledge that you're there. You're an individual. You're never an individual to Verizon or Walmart or any of those, right? But you can be in a small business, and that breeds loyalty. That does so much can happen from that. Okay, so that's that one. Second is the idea of community. All right, we see what happens in Detroit when General Motors said, you know what, it's going to be much better for us to go make cars in Indonesia, right? And you saw what happened to Detroit. So there's no sense on that level of loyalty or anything to a community. But small business, right? A rising tide lifts all boats, right? If you see an empty storefront on a main street, everybody on that main street doesn't want that empty store, even though asking somebody to come in there could potentially be competition, right? And so when we start looking at sustainable economies, it's actually at that level, the better we do, the better the street does, right? So if you're a restaurant, it's easy to use retail and restaurants. So I'm using all these examples, but it works across the board. If you're a restaurant and you're Italian, okay, people aren't going to eat Italian. Most people aren't going to eat Italian every single day of the week. So, you know, the French restaurant down in the corner, they're happy that people are coming, and you go, you know, hey, why don't we try the French, right? French restaurant, right? So that whole community piece is actually beneficial. And the third one is nimbleness. Remember, we're small, so we're like a small sailboat. It's easy to turn a sailboat to go in a different direction. When you're turning an aircraft carrier, it's very hard. Now, there are limits to that, because being nimble is a great theory for small businesses. Are they able to actually do it? That becomes a challenge, but that's a talk for a different time. All right, so those are sort of the ones that we've laid out. This is the third one, and this is authentic brand voice. And the idea here is this. If we are able to put out what we're about, our purpose, our why, not what we do, not how we do it, right? But why we do what we do. What is unique about what we do? And in some instances, for instance, your business, it's unique on its own, right? But if you're going, okay, what about axe throwing? What about this? What about that? What is the reason why I would want to visit your establishment? And so what authentic brand voice is about is, can we use language, and then can we take design to back up that language, so that passively we're telling people what it is that makes us unique and distinctive, okay? And if we can do that, a couple of things happen. The first thing that happens is people who see it make an assumption, oh, that's what they're about. If I have value, if I see value in what that is, then I'm going to opt in, because you're giving me a promise of something that matters to me, right? Now, if I'm somebody who looks at it and I'm like, that doesn't interest me whatsoever, you know, that value is not what I'm looking for, I'm opting out. Well, the thing for the small business owner to recognize is, you're not trying to cast the wide net. We all think we have to cast the wide net and catch every dollar that's out there. No, you don't. In fact, that's not the way to be successful. The way to be successful is to thread the eye of a needle, right? You are so focused and distinct. You know what your client should be. You know what you're delivering, and they know what they're getting, and everybody's happy. Now you have raving fans, versus attracting somebody and selling them who is not appreciative of how you do business. And now they're going, well, blah, 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 right? So letting people opt in and screen themselves out is actually a wonderfully efficient tool as you're marketing and preparing to sell somebody, okay? So our goal here is authentic being a key word. When we started the whole thing with brand voice, the term brand voice was not out in the marketing world that much. But now it's become vogue to say, we're going to get you your brand voice. So we've added the word authentic, okay? And I'm going to give you a quick little quote here. You know, Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for lunch, okay? And if I got that wrong, it was for breakfast, I apologize, but I think it was for lunch. And so what's nifty about this is that a lot of folks approach the concept of brand voice, including large corporations, from a strategic methodology. But as small businesses, our culture is easy to identify and to craft to what we want. And if you're being authentic, your culture should also reflect your brand voice. So it shouldn't just be the language you use. It should be your culture and who you really are, and your design. Whereas in a lot of larger companies, they come up with a strategic brand voice that's going to go out into the market and say what they wanted to say, but does their culture really reflect it? And sometimes it does. We'll see a couple examples of that in here. So brand voice is used by the big boys, but it can be more effectively used by small business simply because of that culture eats strategy for lunch. Make sense? All right, so let's get going on this. So, oops, I gotta do this the manual way. Here we go. All right, so let's get some definitions down so we all know what we're talking about here. There are three terms that are kind of used interchangeably a lot. One is advertising, one is marketing, and one is branding. For the purposes of distinguishing exactly what we're talking about and what the purposes of each of these are, we're going to give some definitions here. And by the way, we are not marketers, okay? We're business advisors, and we're trying to help businesses go. So if a marketing professional is sitting in this room or online or hears about this, they may quibble with what we're saying here a little bit. So this is not meant to be academic. It's meant to distinguish what we are meaning as we go about things, okay? So advertising is this. Advertising is a direct attempt at getting a purchase. So it is a call to action. So in other words, it's where you say, hey, if you buy this phone in the next 3 days, you'll get 50% off of this phone, right? So I'm trying to get you to engage and actually make a purchase at that moment, okay? And so you see here all these things. There's a lot of advertising is hitting you all the time. We are just trying to make some commerce happen here. You know, if you need a, I can't even see one here. If you need something, a vehicle for lease, right here, we've got one. Come grab it. Okay. All right. Marketing is a little bit different. Right? Marketing is that we want to leave an impression. So we're not necessarily at that moment making a sale. If you want what we have, we want you to buy right now. But what we want to do is we want to plant in your head some sort of identity of who we are and what we do, so that you, when you need that, we come to mind. So we're marketing to put ourselves out there. Now, this is branding. You'd say might be the same thing, but we'll get to branding in a second as to how we distinguish that. But you see here all of those moments where you know, every one of these things is something that we're going to remember, right? America runs on Dunkin', right? And for all the Starbucks people, they go, ah, but they still know America runs on Dunkin', right? And so this is that point where we are marketing so that there's exposure, and that we're going to generate future leads by making sure we're known. Okay. All right. Now branding. Branding is a little bit more highbrow here, okay? And that is, we are marketing here, but we're putting out much more of our purpose, our personality, our culture. Some of us have seen some of the TV ads in the past, like I think SAP did one where they don't tell you anything. They show you a bunch of pictures of stuff, and then they flash their logo on the screen, and you're like, I don't even know who SAP is, right? What the heck was that? Okay, well, they're not talking to me. They're putting out some kind of culture to those who know them. They are making sure that their purpose and what they want to be perceived as to the relevant people has been things. So I wasn't relevant. You know, they don't care. You know, they're not telling me what they do, and they already know. If you don't know who we are and you don't recognize this, you're not our customer. We're not talking to you, right? Okay, so so branding is for awareness and affiliation, and I think that's the key word here. So a lot of times in small business, we skip this part. We skip the affiliation, but think about it. The things that we were talking about, relational customer service. Relational customer service is an affiliation building tool, right? The whole community and us as an entity, that also is an affiliation. You know, like, am I going to go to am I going to go eat in Annapolis today, and am I going to go to Parole, or am I going to go downtown? Well, both of them are trying to build affiliation to that location, not to each of the individual businesses, right? Okay. So that's just to lay sort of those distinctions as we get talking here. All right. Oops, I forgot this doesn't want to do it the way I want to do it. Here we go. All right. So here we talk about brand voice. So we already said brand voice is about getting people to already recognize, and you see the yellow umbrella amongst the black umbrellas there, like it stands out, right? So the idea here is we want to authentically put out something that makes people know who we are right then and there. And so they're already warm to us. They've already seen our value, seen our message, and they're saying, that resonates with me. And I'll give you a quick example of this. I am not somebody who cares about what I drive. Okay, I am very much, I'm a utilitarian. Like, if it runs and it can carry what I need and get me somewhere, I don't care what it is. Okay, and so I've never really cared. I can tell you the moment when a car company got me. I was in a theater getting ready to watch a movie, and a big ad came on for a Mercury Cougar, and it's the most recent Mercury Cougar, a little sporty thing, almost looks like a Mustang kind of thing, and which is discontinued now. I'm gonna cry a little, but that's neither here nor there. And I watched this commercial, and whatever they did, which to this day I'm not even sure, but I rarely pay attention to commercials, and I don't care about cars. I was going to own one of those. That whatever they spoke to me, they spoke it, and I did own one of those. And when it was dead and going, I cried a tear, and my kids cried. They're like, "Dad, we know you love that car so much, right?" And I'm like, okay. I can trace this back to these folks gave me what they were about. I saw whatever it was they were, and I identified, and they delivered it. See, part of the problem with this is if you try to manipulate it, you're not going to deliver it. And we're going to talk about that in a second too, okay? So remember, it's authenticity. Thank you, whoever was correcting me there, because it could have taken a while. So remember, if the easiest way to keep a client happy is simply to give them exactly what you told them that you were going to give them, and for them to have understood what they were going to get and said, I want that. The worst thing to do is to sell them something because you know they're going to buy, and then you do not give them that. Remember, when people are unhappy, they're 10 times more likely to go out and broadcast their unhappiness than when they're happy that they're going to go broadcast it. So you need a lot of raving fans to make up for the raving haters, okay? All right. So let's talk real quickly about just the dynamics of how small business operate and why a brand voice can be so useful, effective, and efficient. The first is our money problem. We all know the money problem. A lot of small businesses do not have the liquidity or access to capital that allows them to do things they want to do real quickly. That is a common issue that we see. And so there's a constant battle of I'm either bootstrapping or I got a little bit of capital here that I have to make sure I do exactly the right thing with it, right? And so you end up where you've basically got two resources that are available to a small business owner. One resource is cash, and the other is time, right? And a lot of small businesses are built not on the resource of cash, they're built on the resource of time. I'll work 95 hours a week for the next 6 months because I want my business to succeed. Or, okay, it's time for me to add some time. I'll actually spend a little bit of money that I don't really have, but I'll hire somebody now. And that time then leads to a little bit more business. A little bit more money, right? So we play this game of spinning our plates as we try to make things happen. So one of the strategies that we use frequently is we do what we build a third, I just won't let the click work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. All right, we basically go about creating what we call new currency. So instead of having a two-legged stool of time and money, we want to create a third leg so the stool really can stand. And that third leg that we try to create is called momentum. And here's how this works. We go into a small business, and if we're lucky, they have some capital. Like there's a little bit in the bank, they're not totally strapped. And so we can take that and we can use it to do something. We can use it to buy some more time. We can use it to try to attract some more clients, therefore some more money. And so we can begin to do that, but we know it's limited. So what we want to do is we want to create that third leg. So what we do is we say, okay, we're going to take this money, we're going to hire this person. Now that person is successful, and all of a sudden, instead of it taking us a whole week to get stuff out to clients, it's taking us now 3 days. All of a sudden, our clients are super happy and they're placing orders a little bit faster, right? Our internal folks, our staff and everybody is happy, because like, wow, we're getting it done, not all these complaint calls. And all of a sudden there's this momentum, and that momentum turns to real things, because all of a sudden the staff that was beat down and, they're not working that efficiently, there's a pep in their step. The time that we're using as our resource has increased. I mean, they're getting productive in that time. Our clients are ordering much faster because we cut 2 days off. Now they use it up. They order again. We cut 2 days off. Over the span of time, they placed 3 more orders than they would have placed on our normal delivery schedule, right? So we're like, okay, that momentum to time to money to momentum to time to money creates that spiral. Make sense? Okay. Yeah, look, that time it worked. It's got a mind of its own. I guess that's AI, right? Okay. So we talked about threading the needle. Small businesses need to recognize that the opportunities that come to them, when it comes, it's there for them. If they are unable to take that opportunity when it's there, it passes them by, right? When we have the shot, we need to be able to take the shot. So we have to always be conscious of which of those 3 things can we use to start the cycle when it's time to do it. And if we say, no, we can't do it right now, let's pause, you risk the opportunity passing you by. Okay? Nope, I won't do it that time. I have no idea what this is about. Okay. All right, so back to the brand voice thing. The reason that brand voice fits into what I just told you is brand voice is one of those things that, if done properly, should be bootstrapping you to both more money and momentum. Okay? Because one of the things that takes up a lot of time is us going out to find our business or spending our money on our specific advertising. Remember, we said that's to go get that business in. If we've done a brand voice well, it should be working in the background, continually giving us momentum and continually sending us things because people are opting in, right? So here we go. Big Business was the first to discover the power of brand voice. So this is something where, with all their marketing budgets and all their focus groups and all their ability to do things, they started discovering that if they didn't just advertise, and if they just didn't put out their logo and their tagline, if they started trying to create affinity, and I'm, by the way, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so right when the personal computer was just starting to get on people's desks. And I had an Apple IIe, and I knew how to program an Apple IIe, which means, by the way, I know absolutely nothing about a computer now, but at the time, wow, I was really good, right? And so I became a cult of Mac person. So Apple got the affinity, and when Apple took its dive for that period of time, right? I didn't switch. I suffered, like, oh, I cannot believe that the best company in the world is being dragged through the mud, right? And when they came back, it's like, oh yes, back to, I could get my little tattoo of Apple on the side of my head, right? So these companies know, if we do things well, we can create affinity. And the ones that have done that, because you watch out there, Apple's a great example. We'll look at a couple more here. You see them, but you also see the ones who create no affinity. They exist as an entity that's based on pricing or some type of tech or distribution or whatever that is. And so you look at it and you go, Dell nobody has any affinity for Dell. Nobody cares. But Dell's a player for different reasons. But when they go up against the ones who've created that affinity, they suffer because they can be undersold. Nobody cares. I'm going to spend an extra $300 for my laptop, or an extra $2,000 for my laptop, depending on which one I'm looking at, right? So this stuff matters, okay? So let's go a few examples here just to show you how brand voice works. Nope, I pushed the button that won't work. Here we go again. All right. Chick-fil-A. This is one of the most successful affinity programs out there. All right, and it's based on values, and some people don't identify with these values. Like I was practicing this presentation last night. My daughter's watching. My daughter goes, "Ah, Dad, I can't believe you're using Chick-fil-A as an example. It's Pride Month." I'm like, I appreciate what you just said, but I'm not. Chick-fil-A is not. They're not trying to get everybody. They're putting out their values of what they are, and those who identify with it do. And by the way, they do. I mean, look at the lines you sit in, and people willingly get in the line for some fast food chicken sandwiches. So there's something here, and we've all heard it's our pleasure to serve you. And by the way, we all appreciate it, even those of us, because I'm a vegetarian, I don't go to Chick-fil-A. I'm driving through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through one day to get my a matcha. Thank you. And this lady every day 3 times at Dunkin' Donuts. So, but I'm driving through. We get up. My wife's driving, so she actually is ordering. So she orders, and the person on the thing at the end says, "It's been my pleasure to serve you." And we both went, Chick-fil-A, right? Okay. And we've all seen those videos on YouTube of the poor Chick-fil-A employee in the drive-through window getting abused by goofy people and just being totally like, no worries, it's our pleasure to serve you, you idiot, which is what I'd say, but they don't say it, right? Okay, so let's just keep going on the Chick-fil-A here for a second. So this is a card that is in the pockets of every Huntsville Chick-fil-A. There's a Chick-fil-A in Huntsville. Why am I? Huntsville. Okay, sorry, I'm having one of those moments. And Huntsville Chick-fil-A, the local ownership has this card printed, and every single employee is required to have it in their pocket when they're on duty. Okay, period. And you see, they've listed their values. They've listed the sets of what they will never do, and what the 2 sets of 3, right? So they are enforcing this, because I'm not asking you to memorize it. I'm asking you to have it in your pocket. And so every time you go to make sure, oh, I got it. If they ask me, I have to have it in my pocket. So you're thinking about it. You're reaching out. You're picking it up. You're putting it in your pocket. At some point in time, even if by just osmosis, you know what it's about, right? And Chick-fil-A, when they do their hiring across all things, they train the hiring at the local level, because we're not hiring for the ability to work a grill or a cash register or any of that. We're hiring because we want to see in each of those people we hire that there is some kernel of servant leadership there. That they want to make people happy. They want to do things that will fix problems, that will make people have incredible experiences. So here's that vision. Provide an environment where our guests, Hunt Valley, so is the wrong one. See, don't trust me on any of the details, folks. Just don't. All right. Provide an environment where our guests enjoy the highest quality foods while receiving 5-star service from a highly engaged staff. Create memories that are so powerful that our guests are compelled to share their experience with others. Now, when we think about that, we go, okay, it's a fast food restaurant. What can they possibly do? But we've all heard the stories of the kid who comes in, it's their birthday, they got balloons, and how the staff just whips up all kinds of stuff at a fast food joint to make that kid have its second party. Like, they had their party, they're coming to get some food, and boom, they have another thing. I also, Ken Island Chick-fil-A had approached me because I have a lot to do with 4-H on the Eastern Shore, and they wanted to have a farm day in their parking lot, to have kids come be able to pet cows and all that kind of stuff. Great idea. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to make this happen, but they were trying to provide an experience within a limit. Nobody thinks of them as entertainment, right? But we're going to provide that experience. So we see very clearly that Chick-fil-A has put out a brand voice, and it's recognized by everybody. We all know that. Now, I tell you this: we know McDonald's marketing stuff, but do we know their affinity piece? Like, Yeah, we got the little kids. There's a Happy Meal, but what can I expect at a McDonald's? And so you see, we've gone one step beyond. McDonald's does a great job marketing. I mean, we all know the Golden Arches, but the affinity piece has kind of disappeared a little bit, right? Okay. All right, hold on one second. Yeah, perfect. Okay, here's a great one. All right, Dollar Shave Club. The background on the gentleman who you're going to see in a second who found this is he was into comedy. He did stand-up comedy. He's all about this persona of humor. Okay, and so Dollar Shave Club leaned into that. I mean, his purpose is exactly that, and so is it Dollar Shave Club. So let's see this. Make sure it's going to go the way we need it to.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up. Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
All right. Okay, so it comes across really clearly what this fellow's about. And when we say, okay, well, how does that, nice advertisement, how does that translate to the company? Well, guess what? When you get your box with all your razors and everything in it, here's some of the things that come with it. You see the blade slid into his little packaging, and it says, leave the Knicks to New York, right? Baguettes should be crusty. Your blade, not so much, right? Get cut up at the gym, not by your razor. All right, so they're taking this all the way through. You know exactly what you're getting. And by the way, there's a loyalty there. You get one of those packages, you laugh at that thing, and you want to see what's the next one that's going to come. You know, how many of these do they got, right? Okay. So let's go to the other side of the spectrum here, okay? And let's look at the non-authentic. Let's look at somebody who's simply doing an advertisement. You can tell that there was a desire to like get creative. You know, hey, we're gonna be funny, we're gonna get creative. Let's get some celebrity. You can see the marketing firm in their creative room coming up with this, okay?
I get it all the time. Have you lost weight? Of course I have. Ever since I started renting from National. Because National lets me lose the weight at the counter and choose any car in the aisle. I don't wait when I return, thanks to Drop and Go. At National, I can lose the weight and keep it off. Looking good, Patrick! I know. Go National. Go like a pro.
Okay, what was that?
Funny.
By the way, his name's Patrick, and we like that name. He's great. I love him. But if you think about this, like, he can just do his look, and I'm laughing. So it is funny, but there's no attachment to National. You'll remember you saw him in that. You have no idea why I can't remember the guy who's doing, you know, why is he in it? What are we supposed to take away from this that National will or won't do for us? It is completely simply a gimmick. We got a couple celebrities, we made a couple of laughs, this isn't sticking or creating affinity or anything, right? And you can even say, I mean, this is chosen for a reason because it's a high quality ad. It's not a bad ad. They did it well, but it has nothing to do with who they are or what they're about at all, right? They got our attention. You can get our attention, as you saw in the past ad, and still attach it to who and what you were about, right? Okay. All right, here we go with the idea of driving authentic home, okay? So here are our core values for the code of ethics of an unnamed company. Respect. Ruthlessness, callousness, and arrogance don't belong here. Integrity. We work with customers and prospects openly, honestly, and sincerely. Communication. Here we have time to talk to one another and to listen. Excellence. We are satisfied with nothing less than the best in everything we do. What company is this, folks? All right. Well, I wish I would have written this. All right, watch who it is. That's Enron. Okay, and here's the final piece on Enron. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. So here's the deal. The word authentic is absolutely correct. And if you're not it is not going to stick in the marketplace. It's not going to ripple out. It's not going to create the raving fans. It's going to create these headlines, right? It doesn't have to be that bad. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So how does small business successfully use brand voice? So I'm going to give you an example of what doesn't work and why this is so important. So I had a client pre-COVID. I got to always identify post-COVID, pre-COVID, pre-COVID. She was a marketing a firm, and she came to me and she said, "I am so frustrated." She goes, "I am selling like crazy. I'm getting clients in. They come in, they're doing stuff, but I can't get any of them to stay." Right? So she would do project stuff, but she would also do management. Whether it's social media management, digital marketing management, whatever. And she wanted those folks just to sign up, and then they would just stay with her, and she would just keep those clients. So she had all these clients coming in the front door, and all of them going out the back door, right? She's like, I don't understand why this is happening. We do good work. We do good work. So I went in and I said, okay, we'll take a look. And so we started doing this, and she did do good work. So we're sitting there watching this, and we're like, everything she says she's going to do, she's doing. The stuff looks good from our perspective, and so we're trying to figure this out, and we're talking to the clients, and the clients are like, yeah, but she's not really very collaborative, and we really thought we were going to get a little bit more, idea generation and ideation and stuff, and and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. So I started going with her on her sales calls, her networking, her sales calls and stuff. And here's what she was doing. She'd get in there and she is super excited, right? So people come up to her and she's attracting people with energy because she's got that energy, and she's talking to them and she's brainstorming with them. What could you do if you had this? And let's do that. And think about this and bouncing ideas. And she's doing all this stuff, right? And they're all like, whoa, this is so cool. So they come and they sign up. What she delivers is a week before June, you go into this box, you check these things here. I then do this on this date. You then check here, and then the things run out by a calendar that you can access up here. And please don't call me, right? So her strengths are not what she was selling. Her strengths are that she's got a routine. Everything's on time. It's organized well. The access is there. It's efficient. So for somebody who doesn't want to be bothered with her asking questions or having to do this, she's got it all covered. That's not what she sold. So these people who are there, they might even be happy with what she did, but they're like, wow, what a letdown. I thought I was going to be collaborating with this person. I thought all this was going to be happening. None of it, right? So that message we're putting out when we're in the process of attracting our leads and laying our promise out there has to happen. So her brand voice should have been highly effective and efficient marketing management, not, hey, creative, get with you, let's figure this out, right? Okay. So we're going to take a look at a couple of case studies here of small businesses, just to show that, you know, the small business, it can have a huge difference. So Ann Covington, it was Ann Alsina at the time, so you may see that in here, but Ann Covington founded her financial advising firm in Annapolis. And when I met her, she was approaching it the same way anyone would do when they were trying to start that, right? She had an office. It was a rent. She's renting her space. You know, she would go out to networking events. She put out some advertisements, and essentially what we found was that when people came in and met with her, they thought she was different than the other folks that they'd met with, that they were trying to figure out how to do this. But there was no way to tell unless they got into a meeting with her personally. So for her to be able to actually grow her firm, she had to just meet with as many people randomly as she could possibly meet with to show who she was. And then those that appreciated it, right, would stick. What an exhausting way to go, right? And how hard is that? Because look, if you throw a stick, you're going to hit 5 people saying they're a financial planner or a advisor or whatever, right? I mean, there's a lot of them. And so if you have something different, it's gotta be seen as people walk down the street, right? It can't be that you have to interact with each of them individually. That is just gonna be difficult. Now, if you do it well, then when you meet with them, they are so happy they met with you because you're authenticating what you said you were going to do. So what we did when we looked at her is that we realized this. She had come from major male-dominated industries. She's in the car industry. She'd risen up in the ranks nationally for a couple of manufacturers. You know, she was used to competing in male-dominated markets, okay? She also, though, was being the typical female runner of the household, right? She had 2 girls. She was raising them. They were her main focus. You know, her husband didn't do much in regards to the household. She still ran the household. She's running her business, creating her business, raising her daughter. And we recognized that is an affinity thing for every single mom who is career oriented, trying to do it all at the same time, still takes on at least, you know, 70, 80% of the traditional role too, right? What a great story. What an affinity build. And she's not somebody who's ever going to say, play the gender card. You know, like, she's not about that. She's about, look, if you're a woman, you're a male industry, then suck it up and go do it, right? So it wasn't the typical approach. So when we went to her with Brand Voice, we said to her, look, we think your brand voice is to say, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I understand what financial planning, etc. So the idea here was, we think you should market to women, okay? And she said, what? I hate it. All right? She goes, I hate it. She goes, well, why would I market to women? I don't even want to necessarily work with women. I mean, and we're like, well, but you do. She goes, well, and so she gives a stereotype of a woman that is not what we're talking about. And so we sort of point out to her, say that, no, we're talking about professional women, we're talking about this one. And so she's like, yeah, but what about the men? You know, I work with plenty of men. I said, well, I'm not sure that you marketing to women is going to mean that you can't do it with men, but know your audience, right? And so she's like, no. I said, all right. She goes, what else you got? I said, nothing. This is your brand voice. We know it is. And by the way, brand voice is not we create something. It's a discovery process. So you're going in, you're talking, you're doing all the stuff to find out what is the essence. So we think we've hit this one. And she's like, yeah, right. Okay. So time passes. I don't know, 8 months later or something, she comes back and she goes, I just want to talk to you about that brand voice thing again. I've been thinking about it, and I realized a lot of the stuff you were suggesting I'm already doing. Like she has a program called Women, Wine, and Wisdom, right? It's only for women, okay? And she brings in an expert to talk and all this kind of stuff. She goes, I've always been doing Women, Wine, and Wisdom, so that kind of makes sense. And then I realized that I'm getting a lot of women who are retiring from the federal government at high levels and who are wanting to be independent in their own wealth and what happens from their husbands who have typically handled that. And she starts going on and on about this. So now she's starting to entertain the idea, right? So long story short, it takes her about 2 years before she finally just buys in. And then what you see here is after she bought in, she went to a New York design firm who then designed this for her. You see the little purse there. They designed something called Purse Power. You see coming down here with the purse at the intersection of women and wealth. And then she leaned in all the way. If you go into her offices, they're blue and orange coloring. The language that her staff uses is all specific for reasons. They all dress looking a certain way. Her approach is that if you go in the bathrooms, the wallpaper in the bathrooms, you can't, if you look closer, you realize, oh my gosh, it's made up of all those little purse things, right? All up and down, okay, in a pattern. She's got 3 conference rooms. In each conference room is a big picture of a famous woman. She's named the conference rooms after them. Okay, so some's a businesswoman, somebody who came up in the military back when that was unusual. I mean, like famous women who made an impact. And she's got pictures all over every area in the office. So anybody walking in, if they even notice something, they go, "That's an interesting picture. What's that?" Boom. She's got a story that attaches why that picture's there, how it relates to the intersection of women and wealth. Everything she's doing is now broadcasting this. And so she has what's after quadrupled? What's 5 times? She's 5 times her business. Yeah, whatever it is. She's 5 times her business from where it was when she began this, and has now gone as an independent RIA. Thank you. She's gone independent on that. Okay, which none of this was coming in the way she was doing it before. Okay, so success story 1. Okay, here's another. Oh, that's the same one. Don't care. All right, here's another one. Susan Murray. So Susan Murray, real estate agent. She was Coldwell Banker at the time, and she's struggling to identify who she is in real estate agency because she feels like she's a much quieter person. She's not super outgoing, super engaged with you, all that, glad handing and smiling and making people happy. That's not where her strengths lie. She used to be an attorney. She was a high-powered attorney. She was actually Citibank's corporate attorney for a while. So she's got a background, right? But her issue is she feels like she needs to behave like these other real estate agents do, and it doesn't suit her. It's not who she is, and she's struggling. So we did the same sort of discovery piece, came in, right? And we said, okay, you're not a real estate agent. You're a real estate strategist, okay? You can take anybody through a contract bit by bit and tell them the strengths, the weaknesses, etc. You can tell them when they're looking at something, hey, here's how this is going to benefit you. Here's going to be the challenges. Based on the strategy that we determined before, this is a bad fit, or it's a good fit, right? So then there's our puzzle piece there, right? Strategy is the missing piece to buying and selling your home, okay? Once again, leaning into this, not only does it represent her, it also gives her entree, because she doesn't go in, hey, she goes in as the strategist, and she says, let's talk strategy before we start looking at houses, right? And that makes her comfortable. Now she's on, okay? And the last one we'll look at is Mrs. Cake Pop. Did any of you know Lisa's Cake Pops? Yeah, okay. So when she started out, she came to us having done a whole bunch of cottage food stuff in California. And when she got to Maryland, she was making these incredibly gorgeous cake pops. I mean, beautiful, like pieces of art. Okay. And when you ate those cake pops, they were actually really good, and I've gotten a few cake pops at Starbucks, and they're not that good. I mean, they're kind of cute, you eat them, but they're not great. These were great. She was struggling, though, that she was being looked at almost as a commodity buy. She had a whole bunch of these catalogs that would come to her and say, we want to buy 10,000 of those because they like the way they look, we'll sell them. But then they're fighting her on price because at the catalog, you can't do certain. So she's in this battle where she's selling her stuff as if it's a price-based thing, but she's spending inordinate amounts of time perfecting the art on each individual cake pop. That's nuts, right? So we said, we got to change this. We got to make it so that you appear to be what you are, which is an artisan, an artist who's selling cake pops. So here was the switch. We went from sort of the Mrs. Cake Pop, right? Impersonal, undifferentiated, not memorable, not artisanal, to Lisa's Cake Pop. So there's a little caricature of her, right? That kind of looks like her, smiling. There's a sense of quality, personal attention to detail, and the thought process, an artist conveys. You're just seeing the design piece here, but that's what we told her to do with everything then. So everything became presenting herself as the artist. So when she would go do the corporate event, she would walk in and it would be laid out, not here's your cake pops. She would lay it out with everything. So it was a presentation. And when she would go in to sell something, she would hand them cake pops that were already designed for who they were and all. And the whole thing became, this isn't a, where am I going to get my dessert for my thing? This was a, wow, am I going to use this to market myself? Is this something that calls attention to who I am? This is why I hired her, and aren't they beautiful? This is memorable. Make sense? Okay. So that's enough examples of this. So my goal in this is to show everybody that it's not just about going after it. Okay, it's going after it authentically and knowing what your purpose is, what your why is, what you're about, and broadcasting that. And it's language, it's design, it's approach, it's where you go. But if you can get the passive people out there to see you, and that's why these things need to be memorable too, right? If it's memorable, people remember it, they saw you, they might investigate. Now, your language, your design needs to drive that home. And the way this works is people opt in. They opt in. And the opt-in is the most important thing for a small business owner. You don't have the money or the time to go beat the doors to get where you want to get. If this is done well, it elevates your reach and it speeds this all up for you. It's also very efficient. Those that don't care about who you are opt out, and that's an incredibly important thing to say. Okay, anybody have any questions? So many? Okay.
What kind of resources do you need to start this process along internally?
So what I would recommend is internally is really hard to do. And the reason is that when we went to Ann and we told Ann, hey, market to women. And she went, what are you talking about? Even though later on she's like, oh. So it's a discovery process, but a lot of times the reason we're not broadcasting or we don't even understand it is we may be doing it because it's in our fiber, it's in our being, it's who we are. It may be the culture, but we don't recognize that as the key. And we actually went through an internal process with CTT. And in that internal process, we came up with let's distill this down to what is the one basic value that we're delivering to our clients that we know they appreciate. And we came up with trust. Okay, we didn't come up with knowledge, innovation. It was trust, because we recognized that we were telling people stuff they didn't want to hear, but they accepted it from us. They trusted that we were on their side and we were giving them something good. So the idea here would be that to do it internally, either have some outside advisors who know you be part of the process, so you don't get caught up in just trying to say what you already know or what you wish you could say it was. This is a discovery piece, and there needs to be a transparency and a clarity around it. And it may not be exactly what you think it is, so it can be difficult. But it is worth the effort to at least get, I call it a focus group, but get some folks together and brainstorm this to see what even comes out. I would say the issue is, if you're having trouble really getting down to it, to get a brand voice is costly. It's not inexpensive from virtually anybody. And a lot of the folks who are selling less expensive brand voice as part of their marketing thing, they're selling you strategy, not culture. I go back to that. So you just got to be careful that you get the right people in the room who are going to be honest, and there's a process to be open. And that's the best way I could say that. I do recommend getting outside assistance with this. It doesn't typically work well otherwise, especially on the design component, because people think, design is just, oh, we got a logo and we got this. But the reality is that shouldn't just be something that looks nice. It should be something that broadcasts what you're about. Yep.
Yeah, Patrick, I can fully attest to that. I spent the first, 10 or so years in my career thinking that everybody was a prospect.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about Ann's story, it really resonated. It was like I had to meet with 100 people to find 10 prospects that 3 of them were going to become clients. And it was just like on the hamster wheel.
It's a grind.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
But getting outside help and having somebody focus on like who I am and who are the type of clients I want to work with. And at first I was hesitant. I'm like, well, that means I'm eliminating all of these other prospects that are out there.
Right.
Like if I'm focusing on just one area, I'm losing all this potential revenue. And they were like, listen, just trust me. You're not going to lose anything. And it works like 100% accurate. And the funny thing is when I started saying like, this is my ideal client, or this is the type of client I work with, then I had people that are not in that mold who come and say, well, I know that you work with so-and-so type of client. Are you willing to take on,
Yes,
so-and-so type of client? And it was like, it works.
So what's really interesting when you say that is, Ann's big thing was, but I want to work with men. She's working with more men clients now than she did before. And I'm guessing you experienced this. You no longer had to find those clients, because all the ones who are now affiliated with you are recommending people to you constantly. They're like, oh, you got to work with this guy. Oh, he's exactly what you would want.
They are bought in.
Yeah.
It's we like to call it a lifelong relationship. And
yeah,
it's great.
And by the way, this works for every type of business. So we showed some examples that they're easy to show, but you can be a restaurant, you can be a retailer, you can be a surf shop. It doesn't, you can be an accountant. It doesn't matter, because all your energy is related to your purpose. And if you're honest about that, the battery fills and the battery attracts like energy, right? It works. Anything else?
I'm trying. So I own another company. I own a fitness company, but yeah, same thing. So I'm also a personal trainer. When I became certified, I saw most people working with athletes, the healthy population. Right off the bat, I wanted to be different. So my company, Repeat Fitness, is we specialize in training clients who have injuries and medical conditions get in shape. When we make that clear in our site, people would know who we're talking to them. And I'm telling you, we're turning people away because we have staffing issues right now there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good when you can tell people exactly what you want to work with.
And so the first step is really simple. If the business owner goes, okay, I'm not casting a wide net, I'm threading the eye of the needle. If they say that, accept it, and operate that way, that's the first step. Second step is you have to do it well, though. Like your language has to be said appropriately. Your design needs to back it up. Your approach and behavior and interacting needs to do that too. So you can get your purpose right, your brand right, and still misdeliver because you don't put all the elements in place to support it right? But if you get all those things together, you're flying.
And I think also identifying your why. You mentioned that earlier in the presentation. If you can hone in on your why, and I mean, what's more authentic than that?
I like to say purpose because the whole Simon Sinek know your why has got a bunch of nomenclature related to it and it's very good stuff, by the way. I love him, but we may have purpose that differs somewhat from that list, especially when it comes to business, right? Because a lot of that is about your internal personal value systems that it's identifying, which is part of the purpose here. But the purpose for me to do what I do, why do I do what I do? Why I do what I do is twofold. I love the puzzles. I love the puzzles that each one of these things represents, but I also like to help people. I'm energized to be sitting there and going, okay, this can be solved. Let's figure this out. I mean, that makes me go, right? That doesn't, you can attach some of the values that the power of why says to that, but it's not direct. When I say that, people understand, oh, in business, you're that. When I say the power of why, they go, oh, that's who you are. They go together, but we're trying to market. We're trying to tell people what we're about. So I'm not to disagree. I'm just saying, be careful that you understand what Simon Sinek's talking about and then what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick. So we do have other upcoming events on the website. Just feel free to check those out, centralmarylandchamber.org, and have a great day. Thank you so much.